After 30 years of doing genealogy research, I have learned that there are 5 things that every genealogist should be doing. My question for you today is, are you doing these 5 things, or which areas do you need to improve in? Category 1 is preserving the perishable. Unfortunately, many genealogists wait until it's too late to begin preserving the documents, the photos, and they even forget the possessions in their homes that have and contain genealogy information and those deeper family stories. For instance, I started doing genealogy as a teenager, and I did capture some stories from some family members, but I didn't realize how important it was to take pictures of my home that I lived in. And I remember my mom had all of these salt and pepper shakers, and she also had the family china that we could never eat off of. But we never took pictures of any of those things. And my mom passed away in 2012, and I can't get those memories back. The other thing that we failed to do is my mom kept our family history in boxes in the garage. And as many of you know, keeping your family history in the garage is probably the worst possible thing that you could do. She had researched the Geisler family Bible, and she had a lot of documentations and notes from some interviews she had when she began doing genealogy in the 1970s and talked with ancestors that were no longer alive in 2012. Unfortunately, those records didn't survive out there in the attic. So I'm going to invite you to make sure that you're putting in an action plan to preserve the perishable. So with your papers, you need to be scanning them and sharing those digital images online and with your extended family members. And as some of you know, I love scrapbooks. So putting those into a family scrapbook or a family history book so that these stories and the facts stay together. But also take pictures of the artifacts around your home. There are so many stories about our ancestors just in the things that they wore, they used, and they owned. So make sure that you're preserving the perishable. So in the comments, let me know, are you doing number 1? Type in number 1 and then good, bad, or could be better. Number 2, leverage the living. As I alluded to before, I did get some family stories while some of my ancestors were living. Unfortunately, I failed to ask all the questions that I needed. To this day, I don't know who my father's buddies were who went to Vietnam with him to enlist to serve in the war. He and 3 other buddies, they were rejected. Those were the ones that really wanted to go. Unfortunately, the one guy in that band of brothers who didn't really want to go to war, yeah, he got called up. But there's also lots of stories that I would wish I could have asked my grandma Helen. She had a picture of a ship in her living room. My brother remembers this ship and remembers Grandma Helen talking about it. I was always outside playing croquet or playing with the birds at the bird feeder. Okay, I really wasn't playing. I was chasing them, but I was really little. In any case, what was that ship? Who rode on this ship? What was the name of this ship? And could you tell us anything about the Geisler German immigrant ancestor, Joseph Geisler, and Caroline Mock, the one who outlived her husband? Yeah, it would be great if we will take time to leverage the living. Make sure you're asking them not only fact-based questions, but story-based questions as well. And if you need to learn how to do that, I have a blog post over on our website that can tell you how to do good story-based and facts-based interviewing. Now, while we're talking about living relatives, let's also try to capture their spit or their cheek swab. But let's make sure that we are testing the oldest living relatives. And you want to test them bare minimum at Ancestry DNA, and then if you can swing it, also at 23andMe. You can transfer that DNA from them to MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch, and Living DNA for a nominal fee on some of those platforms. But test all of your living relatives, the oldest ones, the better, because this helps you create a cluster of known relatives on multiple sides of your family tree. And even if your parents aren't alive like mine are, having the DNA of my dad's first cousins, the last two ones living, his distant second cousin, and also having some of his third cousins take the DNA test, I can separate many of my DNA matches into my paternal line and my maternal line. So test as many of the oldest living relatives as possible. So that's step 1, 2, and 3. In the chat, let me know, how are you doing on number 2 and number 3? We're about to go to number 4. And number 4 is to build a sourced tree. Experienced genealogists will tell you how important it is to cite your sources. Just like you would cite a book or reference material in an English paper or a science research project, you need to build a family tree that is based on records. This is when we're going to combine step 1, preserve the perishable, with step 4, build your family tree based on those perishable sources that you preserved. You want to build your family tree starting with yourself. Document yourself. Don't leave it to the next generation to document yourself, because you want to make sure the story is told correctly. Then work on documenting your parents. And I know some of you don't know who your biological parents are, but you do know who your step parents are, or your adopted parents, or your foster parents. Document them. Get into records, document your family tree, and never accept something into your family tree that doesn't have a source to back it up. Now, step 5. This is the one most genealogists fail to do. They don't take time to share their research. Now, part of sharing your family tree is making sure that your research is public, either on a free One World Tree platform or on a public tree on a subscription-based platform. Whichever program you use, make sure you're sharing your research. Don't die having hoarded all of that information. The other thing is develop projects that share your family tree. Not everybody wants to look at a chart on a website. A lot of people love to see videos or listen to audio clips or even read a novel-sized book or look at a scrapbook. So as part of sharing your research, make sure you check out our show notes that talk about sharing your family tree in multiple different formats so that your legacy can outlast you. So 4 and 5, how are you doing with those? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have questions on any of those 5 steps, be sure to let me know those as well. If you like this video, be sure to share it with others and ask them, how are they doing on the 5 tasks that every genealogist should be doing? Check out our website, familyhistoryfanatics.com, with supporting blogs to help you master these 5 tasks. The 5 task challenge.